Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Inside the OC podcast. My name is Matt Cannizzaro, and we are glad and excited to bring in some more special guests. That's the word of the year. But we're going to take it back to 2009 and the USBC Open Championships in Las Vegas. A very memorable year for many aspects, and we will talk to our doubles record holders, Stephen and Brenda Padilla. We'll have Brenda come on first, talk about her career and what life is like right now for her and the family. And then we'll bring in Stephen to talk about that 2009 event. But before we get started with our guest for today, let's bring in from Kentucky, Daniel Ferris, my co-host. Welcome.
Thanks, Matt. How are you doing today?
Doing all right. Looking forward to being back in the swing of it here. I see you made your way to Great Clips or wherever, and you are ready to go after this holiday weekend.
Yeah, local barbershop over by where our bowling center used to be, where our pro shop was at, and I've been getting my hair cut there for, over 20 years, and they were happy to see me. I think I was happier to see them, but I got it looking good. I'm Dapper Dan today, so I'm ready to go for another great episode of Inside the OC.
All right. Well, as I said, we're going to dive in and talk to a couple of champions from back in 2009. You were just a kid back then and still hadn't started your own Open Championships jersey just yet. We do appreciate everybody tuning in already. Please remember to share with all your friends on Facebook and let them know that we are live also on Bowl TV and YouTube as well. So you can find us anywhere, and we're looking forward to it. And with that, Mr. Ferris, let's bring in today's first guest, Brenda Padilla. Welcome.
Hey, how are you guys?
We are doing great. Thank you for joining us. We do appreciate it. We know you have a busy final couple of weeks there in the school world, and we'll talk about that and more. But how are you doing?
Doing great. The life has not slowed down, even though it seems like with the COVID-19, everything else around us has. But ours is still pretty busy.
Okay, now you are a fifth grade teacher, is my understanding, and so I imagine trying to keep everything organized and online has been interesting to say the least. Talk about how things have changed for you over the last couple months, and from bringing the classroom into your living room, really, and trying to keep things going and make sure those youngsters get to middle school.
Yeah, it's been a little crazy. We were in Ohio visiting my mom over spring break and found out, I think it was like March 12th or March 13th, and that was, we weren't going to come back the next week, and then that got extended, and it got extended some more. And you know, I have to hand it to my school and our administrators and just the staff, because within 2 days we were up and running virtually. And man, I'm telling you, what a crazy change from, you know, in person every single day with these kids to, you know, now let's make our lessons online and figure out how to, you know, keep them learning, and Zoom calls. And it's I'm about Zoom called out at this point, but it's been fun. We've figured out some ways to play games. Like we had a rock, paper, scissors championship, and virtually we played pass the pencil through the Zoom call. You know, one of the things in my classroom that I'm pretty well known for is just the silly and the goofy. You know, if it's going to be fun, it's going to be happening in my classroom. And there's been so many times that administrators have come in because it's been noisy, and they come in and we're dancing. But the rule is if you come in and we're dancing, you got to dance with us. So I like to have a good time.
Sounds great. And if ever there was a generation to be able to handle being online, and this certainly is it. And you have a youngster of your own. You and Stephen have little Maddie at home, and who's not so little anymore.
No,
but I imagine
she turned 8 over spring break, and it was we actually flew on her birthday, March 7th, and the ladies on Southwest, they brought her like a birthday bag, and it was really a fun experience. So
now, as far as being a mom and a teacher, and a kind of a teaching mom at the same time, I imagine she's been encountering some of the same things that you have and your students. What's it been like trying to play the dual role? I know Stephen Padilla at home as well as our USBC Director of Coaching and the High Performance Director for Team USA. So nice to have a little bit of help there. But as far as getting her through her things as well, what has that been like?
Second grade's hard. That's all I got to say. Second grade has been so hard. I'm very thankful to teach fifth graders who are pretty much self-sufficient, and you can give them a Google form, and you can give them some flashcards to study, and you can tell them to go watch this video. But man, with second grade, you have to sit right there with them. And Maddie is awesome and full of energy and very distractible, but she has handled this like a champ. Mom has struggled a little bit more than Maddie has. So, but it's been good. So she's finished. I've got to drive back up to school today because this was the novel that they finished. So she's got to turn that in today and pick up her awards, but she did great this year, finished on the honor roll and all sorts of good stuff, good citizen award. And she got into the 10-mile club. So it's all good. So I think she's ready to get back to ACA and not the school of mom.
Understandable. And now for you guys, the school year wrapping up. Steven said grades being posted. You're working on those today. You said a final message to your students, and then technically summer vacation. And I imagine that has a different sound to it than it did a few months ago. But what's on the horizon for you and Maddie? And Steven will be hard at work still. But what do you guys have planned?
Not quite sure at this point. Originally I had planned to bowl some of the stops this summer, and now that's kind of on hold. So, it is one wide open, calendar of possibilities at this point. So we're up for anything. I am going to try to do some more walking and hopefully get some swimming in and things like that. But after this last 9 weeks of school, I never imagined that. We as teachers, we look forward to our breaks, and it's like, oh my gosh, 10 days till spring break and the countdown is on. And now all I want to do is just get back into the classroom with my kids. And so, there's part of me that's excited for summer, but man, I really want to get back into the classroom and, just get back to having fun and some sort of a normal, social and academic, and just school is my home away from home, and I have my friends and my kids and my families. And as much as I complain about it, this has really taught me that there's nothing really to complain about. So it's just all part of life.
And one of the main questions always, of course, is what do you miss the most about the real world and real life? But it sounds like you kind of just gave us that answer. There's nothing like it. It sounds like your class is the place to be.
We have fun.
Yeah.
So we one of my favorite things that we did while we've been home, we started early, and the ones early were just a lot of fun, but we did drive-bys for our students. And so, we have a caravan of 4 teachers, and we drove. And because I teach at a charter school, our kids aren't just in one neighborhood. I mean, they are all over Arlington and Mansfield and Grand Prairie and parts of Fort Worth. And so we have been all over the countryside screaming and waving and hollering and visiting. And so those were our Fridays, and those were kind of fun. And I think the kids and the parents got a kick out of it as well. So.
Well, I can't speak to gas prices down in Texas, but up in Kentucky, they've been pretty cheap. So I hope it's a good thing that they're cheaper for you all down there with all that driving you've been doing.
Yeah, we did. We put on some miles.
So for our viewers who don't know, your husband, Steven, is the director of coaching at the USBC. And typically, he'd be traveling a lot during this time of the year. What's it been like having him at home more often than not? Has that been a good, to relieve the stress and just kind of spend some time together?
Yeah, he has his little office space downstairs, and I moved my little office space upstairs. And so, we cross paths at certain times during the day. Maddie's got her little learning station up by me. But I think he's been really good with wanting to get some stuff done around the house. We're updating some things in the house and doing some painting and things like that. So, he's done a lot of projects. Let me tell you, he is the best handyman ever. He has fixed so many things on my car. He has gotten in and fixed sensors on my car and tires and the air conditioning in my car. It's been awesome. So.
Now, this is just out of sheer curiosity from seeing this around me in my own personal life here in Louisville. Having your family members home with you more often than not sounds great at the beginning, but after a while, it can start to get a little tense. So be honest, who's the first one to touch a nerve with you in the house, Maddie or Steven?
The dog.
The dog. How are you going to put it on the dog? That hurts my soul.
Well, because I can't, Maddie is 8, and so she's Maddie, and Steven is my best friend. And so, it's just with everything. Life has ups and downs, and people annoy you and you get frustrated with it. But listen, at the end of the day, I'm so blessed to have family around me that you just got to, shake it off and breathe through it and just be thankful for what you do have. We've really had to slow down and take some stock and some inventory into the things that are important in life. And man, you know what? My family is the most important thing to me. And we've been healthy through all of this. And, we've grown closer because we've learned some of the things that make each other tick that we might not have been so in tune with before. We're definitely tuned up at this point.
So that's, I totally 100% believe that answer too. There's no smoke being blown there. Having known Steven for 20 plus years, back from college bowling, and now Brenda for decades as well. And of course, all of our time at USBC and on the lane. So 100%, I believe that to be true. And I don't think Steven has been grounded one time during this whole thing, which is great. He's been behaving, but that does transition nicely to kind of your bowling career a little bit and your family, and just some of the background there. You do come from a bowling family, and you mentioned in our interview in 2009, and again, we'll see that and we'll talk more about that later on in the show. But you were at the USBC Open Championships long before you were able to bowl in the event, something that your dad did for more than 30 years. And it was a vacation for you guys, a destination each time. So it already was incredibly special for you before you got to bowl. And then when you finally got to have some success, and of course, your sister, Jerry, a former head coach of Team USA, a USBC Hall of Famer for all of her great service, and now the head coach of Puerto Rico. So imagine bowling all the time back in the Edwards household back in the day.
Yeah, for sure. My dad started us all when we were really young. I was probably 5. And I can remember the first time going to the bowling center to actually get to bowl. And he picked up the little yellow 7-pound house ball, and he never let me throw it between my legs. So it's really remarkable that I stuck with it, because that first night I can remember he was like screaming at me, and he probably wasn't screaming, but at 5, everything, gets blown out of proportion. He's like, "Can you count to 4?" And I was like, "Yes." And he says, "Well, it's not that hard." And I don't think I ever got any pins knocked down that night, but that's how it all started. And my dad had such high expectations of all of us growing up. And so it was never about winning. It was never about succeeding. It was always about doing your best. And so that was always in me with bowling and with sports and with school. It was always, okay, well, did you do your best? And so I learned at a really early age to have to be able to look in the mirror and either say, yeah, I did my best, and be honest about it, or say, no, there was something I could have done better. And it's really interesting because Steven, as my coach, he always, whether it's win or lose, it's always, well, what did you learn? And so every time, whether it's practice or competition, or even just watching on television, some of the greats that are playing today, what are you learning? What are you seeing? What are you noticing? And so everything that we do within bowling, for me, is a learning experience. A lot of times I'll fight that because it's not always fun, and it's not always comfortable, and it's not always easy. But we really do try to take away something from every time that we hit the lanes.
Now you have one of the best coaches in the world as a live-in coach, and now
right?
You guys have had a little bit of free time lately, and the potential for some events on the horizon. But what have you done bowling wise to stay sharp and to get out there and just to be ready for when it's time to go and hit the lanes again?
Well, for me, and I was actually talking about this earlier today, for me, my game is fairly simple. There's no big tricks or anything to it. It's very almost classical. So for me to get back to the lanes, it doesn't usually take a long time for me to get sharp. First of all, I don't really enjoy practicing. I'm one of those, let's put in 30, 45 minutes and I'm good. And it didn't always used to be like that. But anymore, there's so much going on that I try to shorten practices down, and then anyway. But I do a lot of mental practice as well. And I put myself into situations that I can view in my brain, and I can see myself picking up the ball, because I'm a very big advocate that in order to achieve it, you have to be able to see it in your mind's eye before you do it. And so I do a lot of that, and I go back and I watch videos, and we watch a lot of bowling on TV and going back through archives. And, our DVR is bowling is probably the biggest category on our DVR. So there are things that you can do off the lanes when you can't get to the lanes. So I'll be ready.
What role did Jerry play in your development before Steven came along? Having a superstar coach in the family and nearby at some point certainly had to help. But what role and how hard was it to kind of follow her lead as she went out and did cool things and won a PWB Tour title and really set the example?
Well, you have to understand, Jerry is also 13 years older than I am. So when I was growing up, she was always on this pedestal. And, my dad was forever. And Jerry always smiles. It doesn't matter what she's doing. It doesn't matter if somebody's on her nerves. She will smile and say hello to you and have this wonderful conversation with you. And you'll never know that she's feeling anything other than joy. And so growing up, that's always been there. And so growing up, my dad was like, hey, why can't you be more like Jerry? And I'm like, because I'm Brenda. I'm the fiery one. I'm the one that has the attitude most of the time. And so her positive energy has always been an influence in my life. And when I was in high school, she was already, out and working and doing her thing and bowling on tour. And so anytime we could get together and work, man, that was like glorious for me. And a couple of summers ago, I actually got to go and work out with her at Stonehenge and got to have a little bit of a lesson from Fred Borden. And so, Jerry's always just been the one that has inspired me to be better, not just on the lanes, but also in how I treat other people. And that's hard. It's hard to always be happy, and it's hard to always put the smile on when you don't want to. So she's just an incredible person. I'm so proud to call her my sister.
She is a phenomenal person. I 100% agree with that as well. I was there minutes after she found out she was going to be inducted into the USBC Hall of Fame. Got to do the first interview and take the first photos. And, we traveled a little bit together. My first international trip was with her at the World Cup in Mexico, and some good stories came out of there. So just a great role model, no doubt. And now, you have Steven at home, and now for Maddie, has she caught the bowling bug? Is she the next generation, or does she have some other interests right now?
She'll do what she wants to do. She loves gymnastics. She took gymnastics lessons when she was real young. She's taken swimming lessons, and she's a little fish in the pool, and she wants to play soccer, and she wants to dance, and she wants to cheerlead, and she wants to sing. She loves to bowl. Every time we go to practice, she wants to get out and throw the ball. So, with her, whatever she wants to do, we will support her 100%. If it's bowling, that'll make both of us really happy. But if it's not, it's okay too.
All right. I believe Daniel had a follow-up question for you before we talk about your collegiate career and then on to Team USA.
Yeah, real quick, before the follow-up, one of our comments from Tina Williams on Facebook. Again, all of you watching on Facebook and YouTube and Bowl TV, thank you very much. Tina said, the first word I think of when I think of Brenda is fierce. So you're right. You are Brenda. You are not Jerry. The follow-up question I have goes back to talking about how a lot of your DVR is filled with bowling, and you all have been watching a lot of bowling. I know that personally, when I feel there's something off with my release, it's, for bowlers, it's a feel thing. You feel it. I'll watch some top-level players, and I'll just watch their release, because I feel like if I watch it and I see how they do it, how clean it comes off their hand, it'll put it, like you said, in my mind's eye. But there's not any one specific bowler that I watch. So for you all, when you watch all this bowling on your DVR, if you're watching it online, is there one or two specific players you're watching, or is it just you're watching great bowlers to try and get that in your mind's eye?
One of the things for me that I've always struggled with is watching ball roll down the lane. And so one of the things I find very helpful is watching these telecasts and watching the ball roll and seeing what makes good pin carry and what makes not so good pin carry. And so, I love watching all of the ladies right now. It's, man, our young, and they're not really young anymore. I'm just getting a little bit older, But all of the ladies that are out on tour right now and playing, I mean, we watched Maria last night in, I think it was like the World Championships from Vegas a couple of years ago, and just watching her competitiveness and watching her ball roll down the lane and being able to see and predict, oh yeah, that one's going to strike, versus ones that didn't. Those are the types of things that I like to do when I'm watching a TV show.
Okay.
We've been on your fair share of TV and top performances as well. First, we'll talk about your decision, your choice to go to the University of Nebraska. A couple national titles there. Had to be an incredible experience for you. You're an All-American and academic All-American, so very focused on both sides of things, of course, to, again, become an educator at that point. But tell us the process of decision-making that went into that being the place where you were going to spend your college years, and at the time certainly couldn't have made a better choice.
Well, originally, Matt, I went to Morehead State University my freshman year, and I bowled for Morehead. And interestingly enough, I went to Morehead because my dad told me I wouldn't like it. And you talk about being an adolescent and knowing everything. Yeah, that was me. And I learned very quickly that, we finished second at nationals my first year there at Morehead, but it just didn't seem like the right fit for me. And so I did end up out at Nebraska because Bill Straub is he's such a great coach. And, I know a lot of the girls who have gone through have said, he's hard. And you're right, he is hard, but man, he pushes you, and he's very academic, and he's very thoughtful in how he teaches. But he also teaches basics, and he teaches that strong push away and that strong finish position. And those are timeless. There are other things in the game that will change, but if you have a solid foundation, you're going to be successful. And that's what Bill teaches. And when I was there and the transition through some of our assistant coaches and Paul Klempa finishing, he was our assistant coach my last year there. I can't tell you there are two better men at the college level to coach and to put together some winning teams.
Well, it's no doubt that had you incredibly prepared for what came next. And again, some big decisions as far as the path to take coming out of college. You had some success at different events. But tell us about what the plans were. Leaving Nebraska, going into the real world. Was it bowling? Was it teaching? Was it a little bit of both? And how much did the PWBA going away in 2003 potentially change things for you?
Well, right out of college, I went out on tour in 98, and I bowled for the 98 season, and I experienced some success. But at the end of the day, I missed being needed in the classroom, because out on tour, everybody's out there to win, and it's very competitive, and it doesn't always matter if you're there or you're not there. And so I was really missing just the connections with students. And so I decided to go back into the classroom, and I started teaching, and I taught third grade my first year, and then ended up in fifth grade for a couple of years. At that point, we get to 2001, 2002, and, I was really enjoying what I was doing in the classroom. So bowling really wasn't on my mind so much. And then the tour folded in 2003. And so that made the decision easy. I took a couple of years off and didn't bowl a whole lot. My dad was diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis in 2005, late 2005. And that was when I kind of started going back to the lanes. My dad was the reason that we bowled. He got us started. He had a pro shop in the basement of our house. His first job, he worked for Libby's. If you've ever had the pumpkin pie mix from the can, that was my dad's recipe that he worked on to develop. And so that's the fun fact. But he always pushed us. And so I decided that I tried out for Team USA in 98. And that was back in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. And I was a kid, and I didn't realize how hard you really had to work to be successful, because, back when in my high school and teenage years, and even my college years, I was successful and didn't always have to work really hard for it. And I didn't realize the value of hard work. Not until I really started to decide, as a 20, 30 something in 2006 that, this is something that I really want to dedicate myself to, and I really want to work hard and train, and not just train my body, but train my mind and train my eye. And so I started probably July of 2006, training for the 2007 team trials. And I was fortunate enough to be selected to the team that year. And I will tell you, there is no greater feeling than sitting in the squad room when they're revealing the team and hearing your name called. I probably shot out of that seat so hard because, truly, here I was, I'm in my 30s. This was a dream that I had way back when I was still in my early 20s. And to realize it at that age. And then at that point, my sister was the head coach for Team USA, and it was cool. And so I'll always remember that. And then making the team again in 2008, that was also a great honor as well. We got to June of 2008 and my dad passed away. And at that point, I kind of lost desire to bowl. And so I didn't bowl a whole lot. And, we get through to about March, April 2009, and Stephen kind of looked at me, and the Queens was coming up, and he says, "Are you going to bowl?" And I was like, I don't know. I hadn't bowled in about 5 months. And he says, "Well, you're not really honoring your dad if you quit now. You still got stuff in you." And he was right. And so I kind of took a hard look and practiced a little bit over the next couple of weeks, and I flew out and went to the Queens event and made that television show. Bowled my way through the losers bracket to make the TV show. And so the rest from there, 2009 was my banner year in my entire career. So.
Well, it definitely sounds like the path was the right one for you, and when you did have the chance to compete, certainly the passion was there, and you did it because you loved it. So I think no resentment, no what ifs. Sounds like 100%. The career and parenthood and the family, and when you do get out there, you certainly take advantage of it. The couple of years on Team USA there initially, you mentioned, and you had the opportunity to travel a little bit and win some medals. And can you just describe, before we move on to the bigger moments, if there are bigger, maybe just different, standing on that podium and receiving a medal representing your country?
Well, listen, 2008, I got to bowl the Tournament of the Americas, and Del Ballard was he was my men's doubles partner that year. And man, bowling with a legend like that's crazy. And so it was really cool. We actually, I think, still hold the mixed doubles record at that event. 2010 was the year that I really got to break out and bowl a lot of stuff because of my team trials win in 2000 for the 2010 season. I got to bowl in Guatemala, and JJ and I won the mixed doubles masters event, and we both qualified to go bowl the tournament, the championship of the champions event in Barcelona. And that was just a crazy experience. We bowled singles event, and I started with a 160 game, and I ended up beating all of the bowlers, the girls and the boys that were there as well. And Mika was in that field. And so that was such a crazy event. My doubles partner for that one was Rocio. And so just a lot of cool memories. I will tell you, and it's something that I tell my fifth graders every year, is that there is absolutely nothing like getting up on a podium and having the Star Spangled Banner played and the flag raised because of something you've done. It's oh my gosh. Oh, glamour shots. It's a crazy, awesome feeling. And, if I experience nothing else in my life that's cool like that, those memories stay with you forever.
So not only is Daniel Ferris our stats and numbers guy, but he also knows now where to dig for the best photos and videos, and we'll have some more throughout the next 30 minutes or so. And this certainly is a great start. There you go, Team USA training camp. This is part of the price of fame, and something we'll always have and enjoy. But I imagine those couple of years on Team USA, great for the confidence as you mentioned, 2009, kind of the memorable year for you. Stephen, letting you know that it was time, and you getting back out there. The Queens run, of course, as always, a star-studded field, and you held your own so well, and a special event too. That tournament just in itself, and then the finals across the street at the event center on a special build. So, before we get into what happened just a couple months later, talk about that Queens run and just being around all those incredible players and being one of them, and then making your way into the TV show.
Well, that whole event was just crazy. Stephen was teaching a class during qualifying, and he flew in for the match play portion of that. And it was just one of the best examples of knowing your equipment and knowing your opponents and knowing when the right ball is the right choice and why. I don't know that I've had that experience again since then. I won my first couple of matches, and then Lisa Bishop sent me into the losers bracket. And at that point, then I had to bowl Kendra, and she shot huge, and I happened to shoot a little bit more. And I bowled Kim Kearney, and then I had to bowl Linda to make the show. And so you want to talk about, having to beat people that I've watched my entire life. Not only are they my friends, but they're also just incredible players. I can't tell you how honored I was to be able to be in the same arena as them and competing at the same time and holding my own. So, that was it was just a crazy dream come true. And people always will talk to me about, they watched that telecast, and I smiled a lot because to me, I hadn't even thought about winning that event. It never crossed my mind until after the show was done. I had won the event because I had made the television show. And so it was one of those things that you need to focus on what your goal is. And my goal was to make TV, not win. And so, I look back at that and I'm like, man, you missed an opportunity there. So, and it's funny because, Lisa Bishop took me out of the winner's bracket in the regular tournament and then took me out on the lanes here at the television show as well. So she had a great week. She made that crazy, 4 through the middle in the 9th frame. So that's the one thing because I've never seen that made, especially on TV, and she makes that in the 9th frame. It was crazy. It was her event to continue on in.
Well, now potentially that telecast is in somebody's DVR somewhere, and some little girl is watching that, looking up to Brenda Padilla and wanting to be you. How does that feel to know that's true, and you are certainly a role model with all that you've accomplished? It's
pretty surreal. I don't see myself like that. I am a teacher and a mom, and I can bowl on the side, but I wish that the tour had continued through the early 2000s because that might have changed my trajectory. But man, I have no regrets at anything. I've accomplished so much on the lanes. I definitely haven't accomplished everything that I want to, but I'm proud of my achievements. But what I'm more proud of is my family and being able to, be a teacher, and the impact that I have on many. I wouldn't have that opportunity if I had chosen a different path.
We're going to certainly talk about some paths, and the path that I was on in June of 2009, hanging out in Las Vegas, watching some bowling, right place at the right time for me. And I get the call over the radio that there's some strikes being thrown out on the lanes, and, some close personal friends bowling. So I imagine I walked by 9 or 10 times just to say hello between, that morning and the night before during the team event. But we've made it finally. Now we've made it to the 2009 USBC Open Championships. The folks watching now know that you are in fact a well-traveled superstar, and that every pin knocked down in Las Vegas in 2009 certainly was earned, and no surprise to any of us. But man, there certainly were a lot of them. And what happened there was the highest double score in USBC Open Championships history. 1566 was the number, and you almost got half of it. But the person who helped you get there, we're going to bring him in now. Again, USBC's Director of Coaching and the High Performance Director for Team USA, but also a record holder and Eagle winner, Brenda Padilla. Welcome.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right, this certainly is a fun one, a fun story to look back on and tell. And man, you guys did some striking that day, and the previous record was 1544. So blew past that. The previous leader was 1474 at what was the longest Open Championships in history and nearly the biggest, just 85 teams short of the record. So this was the big one for sure. And you guys came out and put on a show, but it didn't start out that way. And this is where Daniel shines a little bit, and it's when we get into the numbers. And Brenda, of course, you knew this was coming. We have the records pulled up, going back to your Open Championships debut in 1997. And you already mentioned kind of what 2008 was like for you personally, and then just getting back into the swing of things in 2009 and confidence-wise. But Daniel, talk about what you want to talk about.
Well, you took 8 years off in between visits to the OC. Your bowl last was 2001, and then your next year was 2009. In team event in 2009, you only shot 571. How much of that was just struggling on the lanes, and how much of it might have been nerves coming back to an atmosphere like the OC? Now, you bowled in a stadium-like atmosphere before. You've competed for national championships, both collegiate and professional. But how much of that team event in 2009 was struggle in the lanes, and how much of it was the nerves and the anxiousness of bowling an event like the OC in a stadium-like atmosphere?
A lot of it was lane play. See, growing up, our family vacation was always to the ABC tournament. And so I tagged along with my family watching my dad, and I heard him for so many years talk about chasing eagles, and I didn't really know what he was talking about. I can remember walking into the 2009 venue and looking on the wall for his name with past, tournament, because he had, I think, 33 years before he had gotten sick in a row. And he was my first doubles partner in that event. And so, I don't know that there's too many nerves of being out there, but I definitely struggled with lane conditions and playing the pattern the correct way and making the right ball selection. So 571, it's actually more than I thought I had. I remember it more like a 450 feeling.
Well, that was later. We'll get to that once we get done talking about 2009. But Stephen was your doubles partner back then, so you all wrap up team event. And what was the conversation after team? Once you go out to dinner and kind of put bowling behind you, moving forward, looking forward to the next day, what was the conversation about? How are we going to play the lanes different? How are we going to score higher, bowl better, and improve these numbers going into day two?
Sure. We try to live forward. And so we talked about, some of the things that we could improve upon. We went to dinner. We actually went on the gondola ride at the Venetian later that night just to kind of relax and chill out. And we decided that we were going to get up and have some breakfast and then head down to the convention center and just kind of watch our pair and watch what was going on around us to kind of get an idea, because that was still before they did fresh oil for every squad. Mm-hmm. And so we had the burn squad. And so we knew that they were going to play different than they had the night before. And so we camped out in the stands for probably an hour and a half, and just watched and noticed that there was, the pair that we were going on to had classified bowlers on it. And so a lot of them were using plastic balls and playing the track area. And so, we kind of thought that was a good sign for us and made a game plan for how we were going to attack the lanes. The funny part about that is we didn't end up using our game plan because, in practice, everything I threw hooked off my toe and everything he threw went left of the head pin. And so we kind of both looked at each other and said, okay, next. Uh-huh. And he told me, he says, hey, throw this ball. And it was my Python that I just drilled, didn't have more than maybe 3 or 4 shots on it. And I told him to throw the whatever the blue Columbia ball he had, because I thought that one would probably work and not hook quite so much. And so with no practice shots with either of the two balls that we ended up throwing, we came out of the gates crazy striking. So.
So now, if ever there was a bunch of dance in the classroom kind of teammates, you guys certainly surround yourself with those folks. A whole lot of fun, but they've also found success over the years on the lane. Steve Sutphin and Butch Cormier, and just they're there to play as well. So
Absolutely.
they have a good time. It's a very relaxed atmosphere. But I know Steven being the analyst and always looking at the numbers as well and how to make things better. Steven, tell us about the conversation and the night of. I mean, 571 for most folks is a good score in Open Championships competition. But when you follow it up with the numbers we're going to say in just a minute, some things had to happen in order to go from 570 to 770.
Yeah, it like Brent said, you kind of try to live where you plan and where you practice and where you're going, so to speak, as opposed to erasing the past. We learned from the past. We figured out that a lot of the decisions you made early on were just not successful at the time. You got to look at both events as different events, though. Your team's going to play completely different for your doubles. Your doubles is going to play slightly different from your singles. And so going from, hey, there's not a big number in the team event to the doubles event, and then having the potential, or at least resetting everything and saying, hey, there's still a chance out here, is pretty easy to do when you think about it, because you got to separate the events and consider them different tournaments, so to speak. So it wasn't hard to transition and to put a game plan together, but it is difficult in the moment to change the game plan whenever that shows up. And like she said, we had some good conversation, good communication back and forth, and really good communication with our teammates during that time, who was specifically on the pairs next to us before we switched over to the singles event. But for the doubles event, we did our homework, and we planned, like she said, and we also had no fear in changing what we saw and reacting to that. So once you react it and you're in the moment and you're throwing shots at that point, it doesn't become too difficult to dial in if your focus and if your goal, if your practice is all moving toward that goal, which was just the best we could that day.
Now, you had some success, of course, as a collegiate player back in the day at Florida State. So you're no stranger to the spotlight and a little bit of success. And but as things started to unfold, can you guys describe just the feelings that you mentioned in the interview after? There wasn't a lot of score watching. You really didn't know kind of what the numbers were, what was leading, that kind of thing. It was just very focused on shot after shot. But at some point, you had to know the crowd was forming. There was some whispering. Maybe something was going on.
Well, I tried to do the math after the second game, and to find out like how much we had, because we had two really big games to start to start doubles with, and I was like, we got to be close. And so I start trying to do the math, and it's coming out to like 350 that we need to take the lead. And I was like, that cannot be right. I don't teach math. Like, I've never taught math. So obviously, and then I was like, okay, just bowl. And so, and I guess my math was probably pretty close to being correct, but yeah, I just stopped thinking about it. There's a great shot in the compilation that Matt did that was on the Bowl TV afterwards. Yeah, crazy. 542, 556. I mean, who does that? That's unreal. But after I threw the first shot in the 10th frame, Steven looked at me and said, that was for the lead, or that was for something. And I was like, what are you talking about? We took the lead. And he's like, no, that one. And he points up at the record banner. And I was like, shut up. And so you can actually see my face doing that. Shut up.
I did watch that earlier. I saw that. You could see the moment when it clicked, and yeah. It was certainly amazing to see that, and then to look at the scoreboard now, all these years later. Kind of goosebumps for you guys, Steven?
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. I think the first two games for me went by really quickly. Before we knew it, we looked up and the 8th frame's over in the first game, and you have a great game out of the gate, and that's fun. You look at the middle of game 2 into the end of game 2, and it goes by so fast again. But by the time you look up again, you're trying to do some math, but at the same time, you're trying to just pay attention to what's going on shot to shot, making sure that you're continuing your process, whatever that looked like for us at the time. And so, for us, I think it was really quick on the first 2 games, and then we did a little bit of math. It's sometimes best, depending on who you are, technically, if you can get into what the number is and what you need, sometimes that'll motivate you. And in our case, we had really good friends at that time that were just enjoying the experience with us. And so there's some whispering, like you said, about, hey, there's possibly some numbers here, and can we catch the leaderboard? But it wasn't until the end of game 3 that we really caught on to it, like you guys were saying. And then from there, it was just quality shots, stay in the moment, don't get outside of yourself, don't look at things that aren't there yet, and then just hold on and see what happens.
Well, certainly a fairy tale, one of the first couples of bowling doing something magical. You guys weren't married yet, and just getting ready for just being one of the steps, the Eagle wedding, and the whole deal, and how special this was for you guys, just in your relationship, and you can't write it any better. But now we're going to take a look at it as well. We do have that video and that moment Brenda just mentioned.
They say that records are made to be broken, but perhaps not so many records all at once. Brenda Padilla and Brenda Edwards came to Las Vegas and set a new standard for doubles at the USBC Open Championships, rolling 790 and 776 on the way to a new record, 1566 doubles.
That was the shut up moment right there.
That was it.
I had a shot at the lead. We knew we were bowling really well, and we didn't know how close we were. We really didn't keep track of the score and really try to find out exactly where we were. We were just having a lot of fun. And having a lot of fun at this event, especially with the people around you, and especially as a doubles team, that's what it's all about.
I've been coming to this event for my entire life. My dad participated in the event for 33 years. And so you think about the pinnacle of events for bowlers to participate in, and this is the biggest showcase for bowlers across the country. So it's amazing to be a part of this, and to be in the lead going out of here, unbelievable.
For Brenda, this is an even more unlikely moment. She added a perfect 300 game in singles, just the 6th woman ever to do it at the Open, and now stands poised to become only the 5th female competitor to take home a championship. And she says she owes most of that to her parents and her partner.
All through my life, it hasn't mattered whether you were a girl or a boy. It was developing your talents, from my dad, who started us really, really young, to my sister, who coaches Team USA, to Steven, who's been my coach for the last 5 years. It's all about surrounding yourself with good people.
It's crossing our fingers and looking up and hoping that we hold on to it for the rest of the tournament. It takes someone bowling well. It's not just going to get lucky out here and bowl well. We're going to cross our fingers and hope it holds on for 24 days.
Keep checking back at bowl.com to see it.
All right, now before we talk about singles and that 300, we'll talk a little more about doubles. And Brenda, again, I apologize for that interview. Daniel, just so you know, lesson learned. It was such an emotional time. There was tears and laughter and the whole deal. And I got Brenda to dig in a little bit and talk about her dad. And there was some emotion and some tears. And then we found out we didn't have any audio on the interview. And she was able to go back to that place again and bring up that emotion. And we all had tears in our eyes. And it was just as good the second time, and the first time was still, even talking about it now, I bet if we told that story again, Brenda, talking about what that meant to you and your family and to your dad, maybe you can describe it for us now a little bit, and then we'll talk about the final 3 games that year too.
It was crazy. I firmly believe that my dad was there and he was a part of that day. Like I said, he always talked about winning Eagles, and you think about it, and you think about just the sheer number of people that bowl that event and how many great players bowl that event every year. And to have something that magical happen for 3 games, for 2 people for 3 games, you can't tell me that my dad wasn't a part of that. And, I can remember calling Jerry on the way out of the convention center, and all I remember with her is just, she is screaming at me, "Shut up! That's incredible! Oh my gosh!" Because it is. I will forever tell you that that day in June of 2009 was the perfect alignment of all of the stars for that to happen. 1566 is huge. I can't even put it into words. I am so thankful to have been blessed to be a part of that, and to have the people around us, and, the families that were involved there. I can't write a better script for that day. And then to have the fairy tale afterwards. I mean, we have our championship banner hanging in our foyer. We have a 2-story foyer, and there it is when you walk in the door, 1566 right there, smacking you in the face every day is a good reminder. So it's pretty awesome. I will forever be thankful to have been a part of that, and to do it with Stephen, my best friend, who's now my husband. It's incredible, because you just don't, that's not every day. It's special, and it's hard to put into words. So I'm kind of fumbling right now.
Well, it was awesome to be a part of it again. To see anybody do well and have that kind of moment at the OC is fantastic. But for friends to do it certainly means a ton, and to be able to tell that story. But it didn't end there. I mean, you guys had just pulled the highest double score in tournament history, but you still had 3 more games to go. Had to flip pairs and keep that momentum going. Brenda, you were able to do that. You bowled 785 in singles, closed with 300, and that last shot of you running it out. Man, how did you guys even just stay calm and focused, knowing what had just happened, and there's still 3 more games to go?
I have no clue. I'll tell you, flat honest, I could not feel my legs for the first game of singles. I had no clue what was going on, and vaguely no memory of what happened during that first game. The second game, that had to, I don't know. The 258 game, I left 2 4-pins in that game. So I can tell you the last 2 games, the last 24 shots were all 24 in the pocket. And by the end of the 300 game, the end of game 3 of singles, I was really deep on the lanes, and just I can remember the feeling in my hand of the ball, because I was really trying to thumb down and just circle it to get it to go through the front part of the lanes. But that's about all I remember. It was a crazy day. And I show that video every year to my students on like the first day of school, because I tell them, I was like, well, I am a professional athlete, and everybody guesses like soccer or volleyball, and nobody ever guesses bowling until this year, because I cycled up with my kids. So I had a lot of them in 4th grade and 5th grade. But I always show that video, and we talk about, setting goals and dreaming big, because this reality was bigger than any dream that I ever dreamed. And so, that tends to shift and make you rethink your dreams, because then you're like, well, I never dreamed I could achieve that. What else can I dream? So there's a crazy fairy tale day.
I do have one question about this photo right here, and it has nothing to do with either one of you, Stephen or Brenda. Did you all happen to know the Michael Donahue over on 23 and 24 who had the front 9 and then went 9 out in the 10th?
Yeah, we did. We noticed it, obviously. I mean, Mike will tell you a lot of things from that experience too, and it's kind of funny to not only stay in touch with Mike, but if you know Mike's humor at all, he would appreciate that, and he would be the first to comment on that and be right there with us, and realizing that it was great until it wasn't, so to speak.
There's no doubt Aaron Smith's got that one on the text right now, going straight to Donahue, 100%.
Yeah, I'll pick up one thing too, Daniel, real fast from this. I kind of had the team event that Brenda had following the doubles event that we had. You can kind of see I got 572 on the score sheet there. So I'm living in the past. We just bowled great. I'm still kind of celebrating and enjoying. And it's obvious that she's the competitor here, because she not only took those 3 games from doubles and kept going into singles, but she put on just another clinic. I think she was 785, I think it is again, for a total there in the singles event. And doing outstanding work there. But yeah, it was remarkable, like she's saying, unbelievable. And we're just proud to come out having a good experience with the event.
So, Stephen, how did the lanes change for you between doubles and singles?
Well, I don't know that they did. I think I was the one that changed more than the
Okay.
lanes changed. So it was more on me, definitely on the bowler at that point. It wasn't on the lane much. I know that I remember Bryn's bowling specifically because she was bowling so well. I remember her just continuing the transition from what we did off the doubles pairs. We had to switch from doubles to singles pairs at that point. So when we got to the fresh set of lanes, the lanes that had been used previously, we still had to continue the game plan. And her game plan just kept going. She just kept the moves going. It's almost as if she had finished a 3-game block in a big event, a professional event, just kept going, maybe circled the house or just landed on a different pair. And she just kept going. Mm-hmm. And it was impressive to watch. So I was in awe as much as I was throwing the shots. And I got a couple of spares, I think, there along the way. Yeah, there's a 6 count spare there. There's a couple other shots that are just not good quality execution, but they changed significantly enough for me, but not for her. And I was proud to see that and the way she kept staying competitive.
Well, you finished with a clean game, so that was the important thing. You finished strong, but I imagine, as you said, the role shifted a little bit from competitor at that point to making sure that Brenda stayed focused and calm, and because that's what you do, I think, and you can do all those things at once. There's our photo from right after that doubles and single squad, but man, the feelings in that picture. Can you even describe, Stephen, what you guys are thinking and feeling? Knowing what just happened. This is not too long after, so it's still pretty fresh.
Yeah, if you just look at both of us, there's just joy there, right there when you look at us. Pure smiles. Everything is just pure excitement. Las Vegas is not only a fun town, but having a great event like that, coming out of it on top of the leaderboard. I think behind the smile, there may be a little bit of cautiousness because the tournament wasn't over. But just the venue was great. The staff there was outstanding. Obviously, the lanes for us played very well. We were not only proud of our performance, but like she said, just blessed to have the opportunity and to be able to share it with good friends. And I think it's written right there on our faces when you see it. I believe I don't think I've changed my social network profile from that photo since the day
I appreciate that.
So,
I appreciate that. That was my role in this whole thing, was the photography and the videography. So, I get to play a part in every school year for Brenda. And anytime somebody tries to stalk Stephen on Facebook, my photography is right there as well.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great experience, and that's a huge moment in our lives and in our careers.
Now, Stephen, you mentioned in that photo that you, in kind of in the back of your mind, you knew the event wasn't over yet. Mm-hmm. So you all had 24 days to wait. What was it like during that 3.5 weeks of waiting, knowing that scores in Las Vegas that year had been so sky high? How much of you was thinking, we got this? And how much of you was thinking, oh, man, that's going to get beat?
I've never checked the leaderboard so much in my life. Now, having the lead and going into an event, or coming out of it, so to speak, in that long of an event, I don't know that it was not every hour I was checking to see how the squads were going. I even remember staying up late to watch squads of good players that come through, just in case. It didn't matter if they were bowling great game 1 and game 2, not just the doubles event, but any event, just to see who was coming through. But it was entertaining to say the least. I'd say a little bit nerve-wracking, but we had a big number. Like Matt said, it was 14 and change on that year that we had gotten past the leaders at that point. So we had a significant lead over them at that point, but you still never know. I mean, I think in the last OC event you guys talked about with Wendy, I'm not sure if you covered it or not, but she was an OC champion also. And hers was down to the last day, I think it was. So it can be down to the last minute that you just never know. But once we had seen the last couple a double squad go through, it was pretty exciting time, pretty joyous. We were waiting the great phone call from the staff there at headquarters to make it official. And once we got it, it was great.
Well, I was at Junior Gold in Indianapolis, waiting for that phone call. And so that was crazy. That wait was hard.
That was kind of the onset of Facebook. We didn't really do a whole lot of social media at that point, but you guys were on the mailing list, so you got the emails and the news releases coming through, and you kind of had the inside info. But when it was finally over and the phone finally rang, being in different places even, is that the moment that it clicked for you? Was it when you received the Eagle? When did it really become real, what you had just accomplished, not only the record, but being an Eagle winner again with your dad and the 300 and just the perfect storyline?
I don't know. I don't know that it still feels real. every year when we walk back into the venue and we see our banner hanging from the rafters still, that's really cool. Last year, my brother bowled the Open Championships, and he was on 5 and 6, which was the pair that had our, I lost the word.
The masking unit?
The masking unit.
Yeah.
And so he took a picture of that, and that's really cool that it has his name, Ray Edwards, and then our picture underneath it. It doesn't feel real. If somebody would have said, you're going to shoot 1566, and that's going to take the lead, and you're going to win the OC, and you're going to have an eagle, and then that record's going to stand for some years, you don't ever think about that, or at least I didn't. And so to me, I don't know that it ever really has felt real. It's just so unbelievable cool that, you can say that. And that's something that describes us, that, we have the record and our names are on banners. I don't know. It doesn't feel real.
Yeah. Having the phone call made it real for me, Matt. It was really kind of neat. Not just get the call, but just to be able to say that you've got the accomplishment under your belt, and it's something that you can hold on to. I think the reality, though, of year after year, like you said, going back and seeing the result, it's great. But the reality to me is that at some point somebody's going to break it. Honestly, and I enjoy it while we have it, and I always enjoy the fact that we were part of that day that really set us up and gave us a nice spot in the tournament's history. But I look forward to the day someday when I get to call somebody and say congratulations. I'll share this real fast that the leaders that year reached out to us right after that phone call, and it was official. And they basically, Mike Shady and his team there said, called me specifically, and he said, "Hey, congratulations! Just want to say, great job. Very class act thing. I expect nothing less out of Mike. He's a super guy in that regard." And I hold that, I think, as one of the places too where I look at it and go, you know what, it's real. Not only is it recognizing the event, but athletes are recognizing too. It's still fun to experience from time to time, but as a whole, I think it's important to know that it's always kind of there. It's always going to be around.
And now part of the Open Championships experience, of course, as a champion is getting to come back the next year, see that banner for the first time, the presentation, the march out to the lanes, seeing the word champion on the scoreboard or the orange eagle next to your name. Before we talk about what you guys were feeling personally the next year coming in, Brenda, what do you think your dad would have had to say if he walked in there with you and he got to experience this moment and see that banner for the first time coming up the escalator at the National Bowling Stadium and seeing that presentation on the lanes as you guys were introduced as champions for the first time?
I don't know that he would have had words. He probably would have had some tears in his eyes and a big grin on his face. He would have said that he was proud. And man, that's all I ever worked for growing up, was just to hear him say, "Good job, I'm proud of you." So I know he's saying that.
All right, now you guys were introduced, and being doubles champions, you had some time to get comfortable on the lanes. And Daniel's looking at that record right now, but you got the experience in the moment. And what was it like coming down center aisle, as those defending champions and just everybody, all eyes on you, and then having to turn around and bowl just minutes later?
I think coming down the aisle was center aisle right there, actually through Reno, so it was a lot of fun. You get to kind of be the center of all the attention coming through. I think it was great. I think we even did some kind of small little bowling move when we were coming down the aisle there to start with. It's kind of neat. We just kind of put something together, really fun. But that experience, when you get to be showcased like that, it's not only a good reminder, but it's special going back to the event. I don't think it's as difficult to get on the lanes and expect yourself to bowl as well, because I think we try and stay in the moment when we compete, and we're not necessarily focused on what's happened in the past versus what's going on now. Just kind of stay in the moment. But it was unbelievable once again to just experience to re-experience the accomplishment, the achievement, to get a chance to really look at the whole process again. I know we've watched the video that's been produced many times. We share with friends and family and what have you, but pretty special that year coming back. I know the performance wasn't as high this year coming back, that year, 2010, but still great to relive it.
So I know Daniel's going to take a look at those numbers real quick, but it wasn't bad considering the pressure and the stage and all the eyes on you. Still a pretty good performance.
Yeah, y'all shot, in your doubles and your defense of that title, 1377. While no, it's not 1566. It's still a very good number to put up. And I'm sure that jumped you all up the standings, and you left looking at your doubles performance positively. But that's not what I want to ask about. If anyone's watched this show before, and I'm hoping that those of you watching now have, you know that Matthew is the eternal optimist when it comes to bowling and experiences and performances such as your all's in 2009. I, however, am the eternal pessimist. And I always look and go, okay, these two great players did something amazing the previous year. We know you all are up here. You're on the pedestal. You're defending champions. I'm the one that looks at the numbers and goes, well, what happened there? Brenda,
Yes.
team event in 2010, you said that you felt like 2009 was like a 460 or a 470. 2010, it was 462. I've just got two words, and that's what happened.
Bad bowling. Lots and lots of bad bowling.
To Matt's point about you come out on the lanes, you're announced as defending champions, the pomp and circumstance of it, and then you're immediately going right into practice and then right into competition. How long did it take for you to get settled down in the beginning of that team event? Or, I mean, did you just never really get settled down? Plus, like you said, bad bowling, I'm sure lots of splits, missed spares, etc.
Well, I think the first game I shot 160, and I think then I shot 230, 160 maybe. For me, listen, when I get comfortable, I can repeat shots. And the problem I usually have is when things aren't going very well on the lanes, I tend to press and I tend to want to make things happen. And we all know that doesn't work ever. And so that was a lot of the team event, was trying to make something work instead of looking at what the lanes were giving me and reacting to what the lane was telling me to do. I had this picture in my mind of what I wanted to see, and the lane wasn't giving me that, and I was fighting it. And well, that's what 470 looks like. So
how much of that fighting do you think was just your natural fierceness of wanting to succeed, and how much of it was you looking back going, I won an eagle last year, now I'm bowling like this?
I think there's a good chunk of both of those in there. I don't ever like to fail. I mean, I hate being embarrassed on the lanes. And I feel like when I am not figuring it out fast enough, to me, that's like, oh my gosh, that's embarrassing. Stop it and try to make it better. And I'm a fixer and a perfectionist when it comes to things that I do. And so in bowling, man, there's times I got to check that at the door, because we all know that there's nothing perfect about bowling. You know, even on your best days, you have those bumps in the road that you just, on your best days, those are minimalized. And on the worst days, like team event for me, it just gets magnified. And the more you try to fix them, the more they magnify.
Now, you bounced back the next day, as we said, 720 in doubles. You shot 570 in singles, so kind of your high that year, as far as scores were concerned, was in doubles. What was it like returning back to the stadium where the previous year you'd made your run at the Queens?
Well, I've had a great history in that building. I tend to bowl very well in that building. I love big settings like that. They fuel me, that fierceness. I love to compete, and I always feel like, if I can't win, I'm not going to play. And so I always walk into that building, especially knowing that I have a shot. And but you can't ever, you go in with the best laid plans, and sometimes bowling just doesn't let you have it. So
it kind of reminds me of what Mike Tyson said. He said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
And then that completely goes out the window, and you're reacting on instinct and self-preservation. So this question is for both of you. Stephen, I'll start with you. Your doubles performance in 2010 was good, 1377. Overall, it wasn't a great year for both of you individually, but what was that year 2010 like? Looking back at it, coming in as defending champions, the hoopla around it, the excitement around it, how would you categorize 2010 if you're not looking at the scores?
Just from the circumstance of being defending champions and a little bit of that, like you said, the stuff that goes with it, it does have a play, I think, in kind of how your performance is going to happen that year, or what's going to happen. Whether you want it to or not, it's there. And because it's there, it does have some kind of role in what's going to happen. But I think that the 1370 for us is, a good number coming back, and we want it to perform well again. Obviously, you may even be trying a little harder to get back to a good number in that particular event because you know what you were capable of. I think it also throws the whole thing into perspective and goes, you know what, just like Brent's saying, it's bowling. It doesn't give you anything. You got to go get what you want out of it. But that whole environment wrapped around that 2010 year for me was great to celebrate, and it's fun to have that conversation again and again and talk about what happened the previous year. But the reality and the goal of what you're trying to do from year to year is just like the guys that you know or the girls that you know that you see compete regularly that are constantly successful. You go back with the expectation of how do I get better and how am I going to continue, not just to set records, but to just go be proud of the fact that you put in a good effort and that you didn't just give away a bunch of missed opportunities.
That 1377, by the way, put you all in 57th overall for that year in doubles. So not bad by any stretch of the imagination. Brenda, same question for you. Looking back at 2010, putting the scores aside, how would you recap that year at the OC?
A roller coaster. Just a lot of up and down. For me, the stadium always plays different from lane to lane and from section to section. Like they kind of go in like 10 lane increments with how they play. And, I remember making the flip from doubles to singles. And for me, the lanes were they were a lot different. And I did not handle change very well that year. So again, it's a learning experience. And, you have to learn how to be patient. And that's hard to do in an event where you only have 3 games to put up your score. So it's that balancing act of I need to be patient, but I also need to make a change. So, and I don't think I did that very well that year.
Right now, you still are the record holders, 1566. They didn't take away your Eagles based on your team performance the next year, so those are yours forever. And, of course, your all-event score, including that 785 in singles, got you to 2132 in 2009, the highest ever still by a woman at the Open Championship. So many special things wrapped into one. You married your best friend, and then Maddie comes along, and now she's been to the Open Championships as well. Is she at an age where she can understand some of the success and what these things mean and what that banner means that she looks at every day walking in and out of the house? Or is that maybe down the road a little bit where she can have the kind of memories that you had as a youngster at the OC?
I think she understands that mom and dad are pretty good bowlers and that we've had some success on the lanes. I don't think she truly understands just the history of the Open Championships. I look forward to being able to teach her that and be able to, I have my dad's plaque from his 33rd year. And so that's going up in the house. And so she'll learn the history and the significance of everything along the way. I don't know that at 8, she really comprehends that right now.
Yeah, she doesn't have a full grasp on that yet. It's going to take some time. It'll take some learning.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll get to see you guys in 2020 at the Open Championships. The event scheduled for September 12th start, going through November 21st will be our last team date. Of course, that'll be right in the middle of the school year there for you, Brenda. Have you guys talked about that? I know with some of the rule changes, Stephen will most likely be there to support and just to watch and keep an eye on Maddie while you're doing your thing and enjoying the experience. But can we hope to see you there in 2020? Have you guys talked about that?
It's very possible. I think my team has decided to forego. So if I go to bowl, I'll go and try to jump on a sub board. So I know that USBC, its employees usually do their team building out at the Open Championship. So if Stephen gets a chance to get out and bowl with his coworkers, then we may flip flop and let me jump onto a couple of squads there as well.
What advice do you have for Maddie or the next little guy or girl, watching mom or dad at the Open Championships? And then same question to Stephen after, as far as, as a parent, as a coach, as a bowling fan and historian, any advice for the next generation of OC competitors?
It's one of those things, whatever you choose to do in life, just do it great. Make sure that you always put your best into it and know that anything is possible. The one thing that I leave my students with every single day, and they'll laugh because I'm going to say it here, I tell them, go be amazing. You already are. So go out and spread it in the world. Go be amazing.
Yeah, for me, it's pretty simple. Be in the moment. I mean, if you're going to be at the OC, take in the full experience, enjoy all the celebration around the event, because it's everywhere. From the time you walk up the escalator or the steps to get up to the event, from the time you get out in the concourse, the walk through, just getting onto the approaches, there's going to be tons of celebration of the sport for the entire OC event. So I would say enjoy that, experience it, enjoy it, take it in. The reality is you still got to throw the ball, though. So you got to be in the moment when you're ready to throw the ball. Do your homework, prepare best you can, but be ready for anything. We said it right here that we were prepared with a game plan that completely went out the window as soon as we saw something different. So do your homework, have a good time, enjoy the event, because there's really nothing like it in our sport.
Well, speaking of game plans and preparation, in 2009 and 2010, we have a viewer in the chat. His name is Beau Gergan. You may have heard of him. He also found some success in Las Vegas in 2009 with a record score, 862 in the singles event, to take home that title. Came back the very next year for a team all events title in Reno. He'll be our guest on Thursday here on Inside the OC. He is in the chat, and he said, Brenda, they've got room for you in their group. So if there you go. We did the dirty work for you. All you got to do is contact Beau, and you've got your spot for 2020.
Awesome. That's
I do
great.
want to say that one of my biggest disappointments this year about the event being pushed back is I don't know where everyone's team builder is going to fall, but originally I was set to bowl doubles with Steven.
That's right. We were on the pair together. That's right. We were supposed to be doubles partners.
So
looking forward to it.
I know. Hopefully we can still make that work. I don't know what everybody's plans are, how dates are going to work, but when I saw that, I was like, man, wait a second. I gotta bowl with an Eagle winner. Like I was like, oh my god.
Keep me posted on your dates too. I want to find out when it's possible. If so, I'd love to get a chance to.
I'll be there with Matt every single day the event runs.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
We're looking forward to it, of course.
Steven's my favorite doubles partner, so you are so lucky to have him.
I can tell.
And so the bar is high. As long as you guys shoot 1565 or lower, I think Brenda will be happy with your performance. Yeah,
we'll be all right.
So that is some awesome stuff. We certainly appreciate both you coming on and telling the stories and taking us back in time a little bit. So cool that again you could do this with your best friend and now husband and wife. It makes my job so easy, and I hope Daniel has some law balls like this in the future that are just so much fun to be a part of. Before we go, Brenda, any final thoughts for today and for all the folks out there?
I just really want to say thank you for having us on and giving us the opportunity to come on and reminisce. Like I said, family and friends are so important. It's the relationships that you build around you. And bowling has been so good to this family and my family throughout the years. There's just nothing I could ever say to give back and just to say thanks. So I really appreciate you and everything that y'all are doing for the sport. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And thanks for all you've done for being a part of our history. Steven, same question. Any final thoughts and advice for anybody out there? And of course, you do serve many roles within our sport, but this one is probably the most special, I think, being a champion at an event that dates back to 1901.
Yeah, from the OC's perspective, that event, like I said, just celebrate the event when you get a chance. Always get, if you can, the opportunity to go and compete. I think from the coaching perspective, what I do, what my daily work is, from the Team USA perspective, I get to be around a lot of great players, and that's exciting. Don't get me wrong, I get to learn a lot as much as I get to teach when I coach. But same sentiment, Brent's sitting out there. I really appreciate the opportunity to get a chance to talk to you guys about this. Reliving it really kind of brings back a lot of those great memories. But on the competitor side and on the coach's side, I think it's valuable to learn all the time. Put whatever you can into play and just be thankful, be grateful, because the bowling community, the bowling world around us has a lot to offer if you're willing to take it in.
All right. Well, thanks for that insight, of course. And again, we go way back to our college bowling days as rivals in Florida. And then, of course, to your days coaching at Kegel at USBC. And our Team USA travel days as well. That's where we got these cool pullovers at the Pan Am Games in Peru. What an awesome thing just to be a part of as well. Daniel Ferris, something you're familiar with as well, Team USA, and now the Open Championships. Any final thoughts or questions from you today before we say goodbye to our featured guests?
No really questions. I do have no, or really maybe even thoughts, but I do have one quick story. When I was working the OC last year, it was my first year working it, and we had a feature each day that was the photo of the day. And Brenda, when you were bowling, we had you on the calendar as someone we were going to take some video of and put it up. Hey, look who's bowling today! Eagle winner, record holder, stuff like that. And you, after watching you throw a couple of shots in person, I'd seen you on video, but not in person. After watching a couple of shots, you were entered onto my list of bowlers who I could just sit and watch throw the ball forever. You, Mike Fagan, and a couple of other bowlers are on that list because of how well you throw it, how smooth you are, how clean the release. So I actually sat back after taking the video and watched for about 5 or 6 frames. I don't remember the outcomes, if they were all strikes or big red circles. But you entered that list that day, and I'm looking forward to seeing both of you in person in Reno this year.
Well, thank you very much. I can't take all the credit for that. I've had the best coaches in the world, and the best one right now sitting downstairs for me in this phone call. So he has a big hand in the reason that I have experienced any of the successes I have in my lifetime. You don't go through this life alone. And so you don't get to the high places by yourself. You gotta have a village to lift you up. And man, I can't ask for anything better than the man downstairs. He's always lifting me up and making sure that I achieve the highest possible points.
Daniel, you're right. That makes my job easier from the coaching perspective, man. When she's got that physical game going, things look easy. Easy on my side to step back and kind of be proud, but I share the same sentiment. I'm blessed to have her.
Well, that sentiment is shared in my family as well. My father has been my coach my entire career. Certainly, he's received some help here and there from people who at times were smarter about things than we were as I jumped up and became better and better and better. But for the most part, he is the creator of my game, so I know exactly what that feels like.
All right. Well, Brenda, Steven, we certainly appreciate all your time today, all the great stories once again. We saw Maddie pop in a couple times during the show. I wasn't sure if she was going to be able to drop in and wave and say hi. But folks, we do appreciate everybody tuning in for this edition of Inside the OC. We've got a lot more coming up for you this week on Bowl TV. Of course, we're here talking OC all day on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, the PWBA podcast on Mondays and Wednesdays, and the Sport of Bowling show on Friday afternoons. We've also got some other Bowl TV only content, and Daniel has his own show, Splitting Boards. Daniel, why don't you tell us real quick all about that show? Of course, Curtis Von Kruger and Emil Williams Jr. also hosting new shows on Bowl TV. But what have you got coming up for us this week?
Splitting Boards comes on 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Central on Wednesday afternoons right here on Bowl TV. Bowl TV member exclusive show. And basically, I will take a player, or in the case of last week's show, players, and we'll look back at a championship match or a title game that they were a part of where they came out victorious, and we will watch it in real time and talk with the player and ask what emotions were going through their head, reactions to this shot. My first 2 episodes were with Matt Russo, who was on the Weber International 2019 men's ITC championship team. And then last week's show was Maddie Brandos and Courtney Ermish from the 2019 women's ITC championship, Robert Morris University. And then tomorrow's show, we have Shannon O'Keefe, 2-time PWBA Player of the Year winner and the 2019 PWBA Tour Championship winner. We're going to watch the end of her semifinal match at that tournament against her bestie, Stephanie Johnson, and then the title match against Dasha Kovalova. So tune into Bowl TV, check it out. We've had a lot of fun so far, and I predict we'll have some more fun in the very near future.
All right, there you have it, folks. Once again, coming up on Thursday, Beau Gergan will take us back to Las Vegas. We'll talk to him and all of his roles as well. And that is going to do it. So Brenda, Steven, Maddie, thanks for letting us have your parents for an hour. We really appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you guys at work and on the lanes. And the rest of you folks, you know the drill. That's the news for now. We'll see you on the lanes.